Shabbat Shalom, everybody. It's good, so good to have you here and good to have you joining us from home as well. On this sunny, bright, brisk morning, we're thankful that we can be together and thought we would continue to give thanks as we did last night as well, but through song and through being together and through hearing words of Torah and studying words of Torah together. And we'll begin on page 186 with the singing of Modeh Ani, offering our thanks in song. Let's continue as we are so very aware in this season, in these last months of the health and wellness of our bodies. Let's continue as we give thanks for our systems, the very systems that allow us to be together. Page 194 and 95 as we continue. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher yatzar et ha'adam b'chokhmah u'v'ra'vo nikavim nikavim chalulim chalulim. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe. With divine wisdom, you have made our bodies, combining veins, arteries, and vital organs into a finely balanced network. Wondrous maker and sustainer of life, were one of them to fail, how well we are aware we would lack the strength to stand before you. Blessed are you, Adonai, source of our health and our strength. Baruch atah Adonai, rofeh kol basar umafli la'asot.
We join together in the L'chaim Neshama.
Say Baruch atah Adonai, asher b'yado nefesh kol chai, v'ruach kol basar ish. Let's continue on page 198 as we continue responsively with our daily miracles. They are called Nisim B'chol Yom, and they really walk us through in the most glorious of ways. Just at the beginning of a list of things for which we can be thankful and which we sometimes take for granted. Each day we recite Nisim B'chol Yom.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lesakti bina lechachin ben yom uben layla.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai, everybody. Eloheinu Achibrim.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam matzir asurim.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam zokef kefuchim.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam rokach haaretz hamayim.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamechin mitzadei gaver.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam alvi sharumim.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hanoten la'ayev koach.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam המעריב שנה מעיניי ותנומה מאפפיי.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'asani b'tzelem Elohim.
אמן. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם שעשני בת חורים.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'asani Yisrael.
אמן. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם עוזר ישראל בגבורו.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam oter Yisrael b'tzipora.
אמן.
Page 204, as we continue with our blessing for Torah study together. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah. We say we are seekers of Torah, and how do we find you? In good deeds and in the study of Torah. And your search for us, you find us in the bending of the knee, in the rigor of study, in the honesty of commerce, through a good heart, through decency, in respect, true fellowship, companionship, and love, through truth and peace, in the no that is really no and the yes that is really yes. Baruch atah Adonai, melamed Torah le'amo Yisrael. Elu devarim she'en lehem shi'ur. These are things that are limitless, of which a person enjoys the fruit of the world, while the principle remains in the world to come. And we say together, they are honoring one's father and mother, engaging in deeds of compassion, arriving early for study morning and evening, dealing graciously with guests, visiting the sick, providing for the wedding couple, accompanying the dead for burial, being devoted in prayer, and making peace among people. But the study of Torah encompasses them all. Page 218, as we continue with the singing of Psalm 150. It's good to hear communal singing in the sanctuary this morning, and we hope you are joining us at home as well and can hear the claps. We hope that you'll clap along at home as well as we give thanks and praise. The middle of page 223 is where we continue. You shall always be praised, great and holy God, our sovereign in heaven and on earth. Songs of praise and psalms of adoration become you. Acknowledging your might and your dominion, yours are strength and sovereignty, sanctity, grandeur, and glory always. We offer our devotion, open our hearts in acclamation. Baruch atah Adonai, El Melech Gadol B'Tishbachot, El HaHodaot, Adon HaNiflaot, Habocher B'Shirei Zimra Melech Elchei Ha'olamim.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה.
Amen.
דמה ויברך ירפא וימליך מלכותי בחייכנו ויומכון וחיי דהו בית ישראל בגלה בגלה ובזמן קריב יאמרו
Amen.
יהי שמירה במבורך לעולם ולעלמי עלמיה יתברך יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרמה ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתעלה שמי לקדשם להאמין כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה להמירן בעלמה ויאמרו
Amen. We rise now in body or in spirit for our call to worship, the Baruch Hu. Together, Baruch Atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, Yotzer or vorei choshech, Oseh shalom uvorei hakol, Hameir la'aretz v'ladarim aleha barachamim, Uvtivo mechadesh b'chol yom tamid ma'aseh v'reshit, Ma'rabu ma'asecha Adonai, Kulam b'chochma asita, Malah ha'aretz kinyanecha, Titbarach Adonai Eloheinu al shabach ma'aseh yadecha, Be'al merei or she'asita yif'arucha sela, Or chadash al tzion ta'ir, v'nizkechu lanu mehera la'oro, Baruch atah Adonai, Yotzer hamerot. Love your neighbor as yourself, you said, and light blinded we saw that inner and outer worlds are one, as you are one. You spoke, and we wrote. We reached for you down the centuries, your light moving before us as we climbed, fell back and climbed again, your Sinai of life. Baruch atah Adonai, habocher be'amo Yisrael be'ahava.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Le'olam Vaed.
And please be seated as we continue with the Ve'ahavta on page 234.
And together, V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levocha v'chol nafshecha u'lechol me'adecha v'hayu advarim ha'ele asher anakim etzavecha hayam levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'tibata b'ham v'shivtecha b'beitecha ובלכתך בדרך ובשבך קומך וקשרתם להות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך ובטחתם על מזוזות ביתך ומשעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיהם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם אלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
We'll continue praying responsively, page 239. The eternal truth is that you alone are God and there is none else.
May the righteous of all nations rejoice in your love.
Let them beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks.
Nation.
You shall not hate your brother or your sister in your heart. Why do you crush my people and oppress the poor, asks God. Praise to God Most High.
שיר החדשה שיפור גאולים לשמחה שפת הים יחד כולם עודבים לך ואמרו אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד צור ישראל יקום בעזרת ישראל ופדינו ממך יהודה וישראל כהנינו אדוני צבאות שמו קדוש ישראל ברוך אתה אדוני גל ישראל.
We rise for the tefillah.
אדוני ספד תפתח הופיע כי תהילתך. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, El Haggadah, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Kamel Chasadim Tovim, V'Kanei Hakol, V'Zacher Hazevot v'Imachot, V'Bigula Livnei B'neihem, Le'man Shemo B'Ahava, Melech Hazer u'Mashiach Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham, B'ezrat Sarah, אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחי הכל אתה רב להושיע, משיב הרוח ומוריד הגשם, מחלקי חיים בחסד, מחיה הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נובלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים לשני עפר, מי כמוך בגבורות, ומידו מלך, מלך ממיד, ומחיה, ומצליח ישוע, ונאמן אדוני יד הכל, ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיה הכל. לקדש את שמך בעולם, כשם שמקדישים אותו בשמי מרום, וכתוב על יד נביאך, וקרא זה על זה ואמר, קדוש קדוש קדוש, אדוני צבאות, מלוא הארץ כבודו. אדיר אדירנו אדוני, אדוני מחזיר שמך בארץ, ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומו. אחד הוא אלוהינו, ואבינו מלכנו, ומשיענו והוא ישמיענו, ברחמיו לעיני כל חי. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, ימלוך אדוני לעולם, לדור ודור, הללויה. לדור ודור נגיד גוד לך, ולנצח נצחים קדושתך נקדיש, ושמך אלוהינו מפינו לא ימוש לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני
And please be seated. Please be seated. We'll continue on page 250. And I don't know if you have noticed it. Yes, Mechu? Yes, Mechu. I don't know if you have noticed what is written at the bottom of the page of 250, which notes for us that Yismechu contains 24 Hebrew words said to correspond to the 24 hours of Shabbat, which is an interesting way to imagine composing a song. So we hope that not that you will count the words, but make the words count, right? It's really what we are meant to do, when we delight in Shabbat, So please join us, page 250. Let us continue to offer thanks. Page 253 as we pray together. We offer thanks, O God, for this Shabbat which unites us in faith and hope, for Shabbat holiness which inspires sacred living, for Shabbat memories glowing even in darkness, for Shabbat peace born of friendship and love. We offer thanks and blessing, O God. Baruch atah Adonai, Mekadesh HaShabbat. Ritzei Adonai Eloheinu be'amcha Yisrael, u'tefilatam be'ahava tikabel. Utahila Ratzon Tamid Avodat Yisrael Amecha Baruch Atah Adonai Sha'odcha Levadcha B'yira Na'avot. Let us continue as we offer our thanks and our praise with the response of Modim Anachnu Lach, which means we give you thanks for the expanding grandeur of creation, worlds known and unknown, galaxies beyond galaxies, filling us with awe and challenging our imaginations. Oh, you got to say it like you mean it. For this fragile planet Earth, its times and tides, its sunsets and seasons. We got it on one side, we're waiting on this side. For the joy of human life, its wonders and surprises, its hopes and achievements, and you at home as well. We say, for human community, our common past and future hope, our oneness transcending all separation, our capacity to work for peace and justice in the midst of hostility and oppression. For high hopes and noble causes, for faith without fanaticism, for understanding of views not shared.
Modim anach nulach.
For all who have labored and suffered for a fairer world, we who have lived so that others might live in dignity and freedom.
Modim anach nulach.
For human liberties and sacred rights, for opportunities to change and grow, to affirm and choose.
Modim anach nulach.
We pray that we may live not by our fears, but by our hopes, not by our words, but by our deeds, as we say, Baruch atah Adonai, Hatov Shimcha Ulecha Na'eh Lehodot.
And join me in singing of Sim Shalom. Sim, 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 shalom, sim, 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 shalom, sim, 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 shalom, tova ubracha. Ya la 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 la, ya la la, ya la 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 la, ya la la, ya la 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 la, ya la la, ya la la. Sim, 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 shalom, sim, 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 shalom, sim, 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 shalom, tova ubracha.
And let's pause for a few moments of silence and of prayer and of meditation. We continue now with our Seder Kriyat HaTorah, our service for the reading of Torah. We're so pleased that so many are joining us today and here in the sanctuary to hear words of Torah. We've been blessed each week to study and to hear words of Torah together, and this Shabbat is no different, except that we actually are taking the Torah out of the Ark, which we haven't done in a long time, not reading it on Zoom. So we thank you to those who have been reading on Zoom and those who are reading here in the sanctuary. page 362 as we continue with our Torah reading and our service. And we'll invite you, please, as we remove the Torah from the ark, to rise.
Ein kamocha Elohim Adonai, vein gemasecha, malchutecha malchut kol ha'olamim, umimshaltecha bechol dor v'dor. Adonai melech, Adonai malach, Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed, Adonai yos le'amoiten. Adonai Yevarech et amo v'shalom ha'paramim heitiv avirtan ha'etzion tivnech amod Yerushalayim ki v'chol avat batachnu melech el ram v'nisa Adon olamim. Ki mitzion tetzedora, ki mitzion tetzedora, u'devar Adonai Yerushalayim, Baruch shenatan Torah, Baruch shenatan Torah, le'amo Yisrael, b'kedushato, Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo, V'gvul Adonai tzvi, u'nefemo shmo yodav. Ya la la ya la la ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la, ya la la ya la la ya la la ya la la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la la
What she said, what she said. Please be seated, please be seated. We will continue this morning. It is a wonderful part of our story we are reading. Esther will be chanting for us. We're so delighted from Parshat Yitro. It is the beginning of of chapter 18 from the book of Exodus. There's so much that happens in this parsha that needs our attention, some which we'll discuss in a few minutes, some which Esther will in just a moment chant for us. It is the section where Yitro, it's where it gets its name from, brings his daughter Zipporah and her two sons Gershom and Eliezer to his son, to Moses, his son-in-law Moses. Moses, we know, follows Yitro's advice and appoints judges to help him lead the people, a critical moment as well, which we will discuss. The children of Israel camp in front of Mount Sinai. They hear the covenant, they respond with God. All that God has spoken, we will do. The Israelites encounter God at Mount Sinai. There are so many rich pieces to this story. The 10 Commandments, right? We have the 10 Commandments that are given to the people, directly to the people. And the people are frightened. We know that they are frightened to receive this, and they ask for a go-between. They want someone to help them between God and themselves, and any number of those stories could be for us to contemplate and discuss. Esther will be reading from the beginning, I believe, right? From 18. That can be found in your Plaut commentaries in your Chumashim on page 471, page 471. And for the Aliyah, we will ask Marilyn to join us on the Bima, and Esther as well. So page 471 in Plaut as we will begin.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Vayishma Yitro Kohen Midyan Hoten Moshe et Kol Asher Asa Elohim LeMoshe uYisrael Amo Ki Hotzi Adonai et Yisrael Mitzrayim et Yisrael mi Mitzrayim Vayikach Yitro Hoten Moshe et Zipporah Eshet Moshe Achar Shiluchecha Ve'et Shnei Vanecha Asher Shem Ha'echad Gershom Ki Amar Ger Hayiti Be'eretz Nachriya.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Yasher Koach. Yasher Koach. Fantastic.
Whoa.
Fantastic. Beautiful. 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 Yasher Koach. Beautiful. And we will continue as we prepare to return the Torah to its resting place in the ark. We will invite you please to remain standing if you're standing, or to please join us as we rise. In just a moment, we will return the Torah to the ark, but not its words and not its messages and not the strength with which those words, Esther, were so beautifully offered to us. And in fact, the very section that we're going to study. So I'm thankful that you delivered them with strength, because they are meant to be heard with strength.
Wow.
Page 370 in just a moment is where we will continue with V'zot Torah.
And page 374. Hallelujah, Shem Adonai, Ki Nizgav Shemo Levado. Ora Eretz Shamayim, Vayarem Kerama, Zechira Lechor Chasida, Livnei Yisrael Am Kerama. Hallelujah, Hallelujah. Il katana katlachem porati adavu. Et ha'ilhi lama hazikima. V'tomechecha miushar derachecha. Barminam b'chol netivotecha. Shalom, shalom, Hasheminu Adonai, Eloheinu shalom, Chodesh Yameinu Kekedem.
And please be seated. Please be seated. We will continue now. We'll actually study some of the English that Esther just read. So I am going to, for those of you who still have the page number, if you need it again, hold on, I think it was 470, right? Is that, I think that's where you can find 471. Thank you. 471 is where you can find it in the Plout. For those at home, I will screen share the English. Hold on. Okay, so here is, English should be quite large. Hold on one second. Okay. So everybody, can you give me a thumbs up at home so I know that you can see it? Arlene and Jerry, can you see the text? Good, okay, thank you. Okay, so we will read part of the English together and then we're gonna discuss it. Jethro, the priest of Midian, Moses' father-in-law, heard that all God had done for Moses and for Israel, God's people, how the Eternal had brought Israel out from Egypt. So Jethro, Moses' father-in-law, took Zipporah, Moses' wife, after she had been sent home, and her 2 sons, of whom one was named Gershom, that is to say, I have been a stranger in a foreign land. That's the word ger, and that we know for stranger or foreigner. And the other was Elazar, meaning the God of my father's house was my help, delivering me from the sword of Pharaoh. Jethro, Moses' father-in-law, brought Moses' son and wife to him in the wilderness, where he was encamped at the mountain of God. He sent word to Moses, I, your father-in-law Jethro, am coming to you with your wife and her 2 sons. Moses went out to meet his father-in-law. He bowed low and kissed him. Each asked after the other's welfare, and they went into the tent. Moses then recounted to his father-in-law everything that the Eternal had done to Pharaoh and to the Egyptians for Israel's sake, all the hardships that had befallen them on the way and how the Eternal had delivered them. And Jethro rejoiced over all the kindness that the Eternal had shown Israel when delivering them from the Egyptians. Blessed be the Eternal, Jethro said, who delivered you from the Egyptians and from Pharaoh, and who delivered the people from under the hand of the Egyptians. Now I know that the Eternal is greater than all gods, yes, by the result of their very schemes against the people. And Jethro, Moses' father-in-law, brought a burnt offering and sacrifices for God. And Aaron came with all the elders of Israel to partake of the meal before God with Moses' father-in-law. Next day, Moses sat as a magistrate among the people, while the people stood about Moses from morning until evening. But when Moses' father-in-law saw how much he had to do for the people, he said, what is this thing that you are doing for the people? Why do you act alone while all the people stand about you from morning until evening? And Moses replied to his father-in-law, it is because the people come to me to inquire of God. When they have a dispute, it comes before me, and I decide between one party and another, and I make known the laws and the teachings of God. But Moses' father-in-law said to him, the thing you are doing is not right, and you will surely wear yourself out, and these people as well. For the task is too heavy for you, and you cannot do it alone. Now listen to me, I will give you counsel, and God will be with you. And God be with you. You represent the people before God. You bring the disputes before God and enjoin upon them the laws and the teachings, and make known to them the way they are to go and the practices they are to follow. You shall also seek out from among all the people capable deputies who fear God, trustworthy deputies who spurn ill-gotten gain. Set these over them as chiefs of thousands, hundreds, fifties, and tens, and let them judge the people at all times. Have them bring every major dispute to you, but let them decide every minor dispute themselves. Make it easier for yourself by letting them share the burden with you. If you do this, and God so commands, you will be able to bear up, and all these people too will go home unwearied. We are almost done. Moses heeded his father-in-law and did just as he had said. Moses chose capable deputies out of all Israel and appointed them heads over the people, chiefs of thousands, hundreds, fifties, and tens, and they judged the people at all times. The difficult matters they would bring to Moses, and all the minor matters they would decide themselves. Then Moses bade his father-in-law farewell, and he went his way in his own land. So it is a big chunk of text, I know, to process in the English, but tell me, just at first glance, just we say on the pshat level, on the surface of the reading, what, if anything, caught your attention? What was any one thing that caught your attention just from hearing either Esther's beautiful chanting or the English version of the story? What caught your attention? What's happening? What's happening? Right, right. What is it? And there's a microphone, by the way, somewhere back in the pews. There's a microphone, right? Why is Jethro, Marilyn just correctly noted, why is it that Jethro is, right, the father-in-law of Moses is giving this advice? Why didn't God just give it with everything else amazing that God gave, right? Right? Why did Moses need this from his father-in-law, Jethro, who is, does anybody know about Jethro? Anybody remember who Jethro was? Is he Jewish? No, right? He's a Midianite. Gives us a little bit of a plot twist, right? Right, so here's Moses, our single greatest leader. And we've had many great leaders, but he's chief among chief, right? He is the top of the food chain right after God, right? So why does Moses take his guidance from Jethro, his father-in-law, who isn't even an Israelite, right? He's a Midianite, right? Right. So what do we do with that? Do we hold on to that, right? And please at home join us as well. Just unmute yourselves at home if you want to answer as well, right? What else did you notice from the story? Anything else? Where have the Israelites just come from? Do you remember in our story? Right, they've just come from Egypt, right, where they have been oppressed, where they have been enslaved, right? Right? They are weary, they are tired. Right? They are skeptical. They are beaten down, right? Yeah, please, Marlene.
Well, one thing that I noted was, and I don't know if it's a difference in translation, but I think you said, what is this thing that you are doing for the people? And mine says to the people, like as if you're putting too much burden on these already weary people. And the other thing is, I personally thought Moses, the way Jethro couched it was, listen, don't wear yourself out. We need you these people need you as a leader. So you got to learn to delegate.
All right.
And it makes sense. I personally thought Moses took it as good advice.
Right. Moses, right? Brilliant, right? Jethro had a vested interest, right? That Moses not wear himself out and be of no use to the people and no use to his daughter or his grandsons, right? So I know with whom I sit, right? And the people who are in this both in this congregation and joining us from home, who do a great deal in our congregation, right? At any given time and at many given points in time, to say, don't do it all on your own.
So this is the first corporate lesson in delegation.
Right? Sharing responsibility. Yeah, go ahead.
And I have to think of the Cantor's Lunch and Learn on Wednesday, where she said, "Imena nili mili, oh,
It's me, right? Right.
So
If I am not for myself, who will be for me, right, Hillel?
so
Right?
this is about Moses taking care of himself and having a plan to take care of others now, a practical plan. So we discussed that.
Yeah, beautiful, right? The teachings of Hillel and the teachings of Jethro, the father-in-law of Moses, right? So we hear, right? And we are taught that when something is repeated, that we're supposed to pay special attention to it, right? That there's a reason for us to pay attention to it. Yeah. So there's another twist to the story that the order in our story seems to be jumbled in the Exodus story. maybe critical biblical analysis, maybe to draw our attention, right? But that Jethro begins by recounting the story of Moses being visited by his father-in-law, who delights in all that God has done for the Israelites. But the opening of the very next chapter, we learn that Moses and the Israelites have not yet arrived at Sinai. They are in fact still journeying toward the mountain where they will receive God's revelation. So is that an oops? Right? Is the story itself out of order? Right? Chronologically speaking, chapter 19 should actually come before chapter 18. Yes. Take the microphone so we can hear you. Right, so the journey to Sinai should have taken place before the recounting of a Sinai.
I just
event
wasn't
took
sure
place.
where Jethro was at this time.
Right.
That he didn't know all this stuff, that Moses had to tell him.
Right.
So I couldn't place it geographically even.
And you stand in good stead with the rabbis, right, who said, how does that work? How does that work, right? Right before we learn about Jethro's arrival, the text actually has just described to us this battle between the Israelites who are thirsty and upset and discontented and hungry and afraid, and they're assailed by the Amalekites, right? This is what we read last week. And it's only God's assistant who enables them to fend off the Amalekites. And I'm taking a step back so we can take a step forward. The Amalekites, we don't hear much except that as the Israelites are coming through the desert, the Amalekites are thought of in history, in our history, as the worst of the worst, right? But we were supposed to blot out the name of the Amalekites. And why? Why? We're taught because they attacked those who were weakest and at the back. Right, that they had such a lack of moral turpitude that they attacked those who were at the most risk, right? So why do we hear this story about Jethro and the Amalekites out of order as it is? And what are we supposed to learn from it, right? That Amalekite who was the attacker of the weakest, and Jethro who isn't Jewish, who isn't an Israelite, right? Father-in-law of Moses and a Midianite. Why do we have these two stories juxtaposed? Why do we have an Amalekite who's so vicious that we are taught to blot out his name every time we hear it in history, right? And that there are none as bad as Amalek, right? As Amalek, not the Amalekites, right? And why do we do this? Why do we read them together? So we are tempted. This is Rabbi Shai Held who writes beautifully. He says, a people who has been brutally oppressed by one nation in Egypt and then mercilessly attacked by another, the Amalekites, right? Might well conclude that it has no friends, no allies, and no well-wishers, right? It was a study that caught my attention, especially after last weekend, right? Right, we might be inclined to think that everybody hates us. And descendants who read these events might be tempted to really conclude similarly. But the Torah wants us to preempt this line of reasoning by reminding us that not all non-Jews are like Amalek, right? Sometimes hard to remember, but the juxtaposition of these two stories where they are in our Torah text does just that. Not everybody hates the Jews. Jethro serves as an incredible paradigm of the non-Israelite who can seek the well-being of Israel and acknowledge the greatness of God, of our God, right? And Jethro, as Marilyn said, teaches us an incredibly valuable lesson that we might otherwise have thought that God should have taught us, right? Right? Then the story of Jethro before the Israelites encounter God at Mount Sinai, how do we understand that? We've received Torah, should not have been the most important thing, and anything we need to know ought to come right from Revelation, and everything after that should really just be an afterthought. This parsha that you just chanted really nips that line of thinking in the bud and says, right before the Israelites stand at Mount Sinai, they are taught a critical lesson in the administration of justice by a non-Israelite who had no access to Torah. Right? When you think about it, it's kind of mind-blowing, right? That one of our most incredible pieces of wisdom comes from Jethro at a pivotal moment in our history. Jethro tells Moses that the system he's set up won't work and that he's going to burn himself out, right? And as soon as Jethro has offered his recommendation, the Torah simply states, Moses heeded his father-in-law and did all that he said. Exodus teaches us a lesson. There is wisdom to be found from others in our Torah and at the same time from others, not one or the other, but both and that Torah is not our only source of wisdom, a critical source of wisdom, but not the only one, and that there is much for us to learn from those who are not Jewish. Deuteronomy later on expresses more anxiety about outside influences, and we pay attention to that too. Doesn't say ignore it, but these two competing impulses that we have, Rabbi Scheiheld shares with us, and two contrasting conceptions of Israel's relationship to Gentile wisdom is in fact a tension that we visit every day in religious life. Right? That we have to mine our Torah text very carefully, to not cherry pick, but to notice the critically important lessons that it teaches. So I thank you. I thank you for some study. I wonder if there are any other thoughts at all about this passage. Are you surprised to know about the prominence of Jethro? Are you surprised to know about delegation? Should you remember the importance of delegating and not doing it all on your own? Not looking at anybody in particular, right? Right? Can that wisdom come from any number of places? Yes. Can we use Torah as our guide, and ought we? Yes.
Yes, Rabbi.
Right? A both and with so much to mine in the story of Yitro, it is an especially timely reminder of who we are and how others are in relationship to us and with us, to be hopeful and resilient, to be careful and discerning, and at the same time to notice with whom we live, work, and love. Let us continue as we turn to the Mishabera on page 371. We have so many who are in need of healing and wholeness and strength right now. And we say, Mishabera Chavotenu v'imotenu Avraham Yitzchak v'Yaakov Sarah Rivka Rachel v'Leah Hu Yivarech et hacholim. May the one who blessed our ancestors Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah bless and give strength and healing to those who are struggling. This Shabbat we are holding in our prayers Shana Esther Bat Rachel, Sarah Bat Avraham Basara, Alan Skirker, Laura Braun, Stephen Brent, Rini Feingold, Irving Manis, Susan Silton Tobias, Kim Stanger Delisle, Gabriel Berger, Brian Mansfield, Michael Shartok, Pat Connor, Rick Siltera, Miriam Nemitz, Casey Zachman, Ali Goldsmith, Barbara Petro, Valerie Brownstein, Abigail Shimkanen, Liz Steinberg, Stephen Breiger, Claire Cowing, Linda Champion, Jackie Goldshine, Allison Rohrer Sakeli, Sarah Postelnik, Stanley Niskoda, and Jennifer McMillan. If there are others whom you would add to our prayers for healing, for wholeness, for strength, please share those names aloud with us at this time.
Donna Gillette, Eric Trimboli, and Jadelle Shelley.
All those in Colleyville, Texas as well, and those who are caring for those in their community, those who supported them and who are dealing with the aftermath of their nightmare, along with all of those who are struggling with COVID right now and who are supporting those who have COVID, and those whose names perhaps we do not know, but who are being held warmly in our prayers. As we say, may the Blessed Holy One be filled with compassion for wherever possible, their health to be restored and strength revived. May God swiftly send renewal of body and spirit, and let us join together in saying,
Amen.
Amen. Page 371.
May the source of strength, who blessed once before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Misheberach imotenu, mekor habracha the renewal of our body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
Amen. Let's turn to our concluding prayers, the Elenu, which can be found on page 586, as we are reminded that all of this is upon us with God's support. Page 586 as we rise for the Elenu. We pause this morning to think of our loved ones whom death has recently taken from us and those who died at this season in years past, along with those whom we have drawn into our hearts with our own. During the period of Shloshim, these last 30 days, we are mourning the loss of Rabbi Cy Dresner and Linda Falk, sister of Susan Mercier. This Shabbat marks a yahrzeit, an anniversary of passing for Manton Baxter and Mordecai Brill. We dedicate your beautiful Torah reading. We should have done that earlier, but I hope now you will hear it dedicated in his memory. Paul Buran, Eston Cohn, Hannah S. Cohn, Maurice Cornell, Anna Doran, Esther Elwitt, William Fawcett, Helen Frindell, Kay Gibbons, Walter Gillis, Melvin Goldberg, Esther Hutkoff, Dorothy Katzel, Gertrude Kessler, Bernard Klein, Elaine Levy, Sari Lieberman, Alfred Marcus, Ellis Muffs, Esther Nemitz, Ann Nussbaum, Margaret Olson, Sarah Rapp, Robert Rosen, Shirley Schwartz, Raymond Schwartz, Maxine Goldstein Sheffrin, Sophia Rolick Stekloff, Donald Stearns, Alfred Stiller, Jack Tansman, Pauline Tansman, Gerald Ustain, and Ruth Weiss. If there are names that you would add to either list or names that are better spoken aloud by you, please would you do so as I look your way. And from home. We say Zichronam Livracha, may each of their memories be for a blessing as we turn to page 598 to recite the mourner's Kaddish together. V'yit kadal v'yit kadash shmei rabba, be'alma divrach yirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayeichon uv'yomeichon uv'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, b'agalav v'zman kari v'imru, amen. Yehei shmei rabba mevarach le'olam olmei olmaya, Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei kudasha b'richu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechamata, da'amiran v'alma v'imru, amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shamaya, v'chaim aleinu v'el kol Yisrael v'imru, amen. Oseh shalom b'mramav, huya aseh shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel v'imru. Amen. May the one who creates harmony on high bring peace to us, to all Israel, as we join together in saying, Amen. Amen. And please be seated. Please be seated. Again, our thanks for a beautiful, beautiful Torah reading, and Marilyn for your honor for the Aliyah as well, and for the richness of the discussion always, always, always. Tomorrow morning, we have religious school at 9:30 and the Torah cantillation class. Thank you to those who are taking that class and gracing us with the fruits of your labor at 11 o'clock tomorrow morning, at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. 10 o'clock tomorrow morning, Zoom only, and then for congregants who have registered, the vaccine clinic at 12:30. We have our final incredible program offered by the Social Action Committee on perspectives on policing past, present, and future, reimagining policing with guest speaker Danielle Ponder, which promises to be incredible on Monday evening at 7 p.m. You can find that information on our website as well. Wednesday, January 26th, the cantor will be teaching her the next session of her Lunch and Learn Jewish Stories and Legends. That is on Zoom, and we hope that you'll join us next week for Sephardic Shabbat as well. And as I put in a plug last night, I hope those who are interested in Yiddish and learning with Esther Brill will mark February 1st at 7 p.m. on your calendars for not just your Bubi or Zeta's Yiddish, a Zoom only class. And this particular session will be reading Yiddish, if I have that down correctly. Winterfest, mark your calendars also please for February 12th. That will be a great day starting here at 3:30. Some hiking and some activities, and then returning back here all outdoors for hot chocolate and Havdalah. You can find information on our website and snippets or by contacting Vicki Finnefrock. February, we know, is Jewish Disability Awareness and Inclusion Month, and it promises this month to be very, very illuminating and important for us to look at inclusion through the lens of racial, ethnic, and family diversity and diverse abilities through those lenses each of those 4 weeks. So it's Friday nights, plus some additional sessions during the weeks as well. And then last, please, if you would look at our website for looking to the very many places that need support. Financial support, supportive items, support of your energies, your signatures, your involvement and your engagement. You will find many of those for Afghan refugees, for those who are still dealing with the aftermath of the tornado in Kentucky. The support, if ever we have been reawakened to the threats of anti-Semitism, the Jewish community is supporting us with tremendous resources through the Federation, and their Rock Strong campaign is a way to help us do that as well. So we hope that you'll find the right places to be involved. Any announcements that we should know about from where you are or from at home? Any celebrations, anything that we should be aware of? Okay, then let's continue with Kiddush and Motzi. If it's your custom to rise for Kiddush, please do so, and we'll give thanks for the sweetness and the sanctity of the day.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen.
Amen.
Join me, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem mi'haaretz. Amen.
And please be seated. Please be seated. We'll finish with our closing song.
Ani ve'ata on page 652. Ani ve'ata, we can change the world. And it might be difficult, but we can try. We start from beginning. 652. Ani ve'ata.
Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom. We wish you a good, a healthy, and a warm week ahead. And please have something sweet at home. Have something sweet or nourishing here as you leave, and take a minute and both congratulate those who participated today and enjoy something sweet on the way out as well. Shabbat shalom, everybody.